Hey, thanks for tuning in. If you're looking to get another 5 or maybe even 10 watts out of your Striker 955, and we're just talking 5 or 10 more watts, it's not a huge upgrade, but what I've done is I've taken 8 gauge wire and I've made a plug for it. So what I really did was on the back half of the 3-prong plug, I had to cut it because you'll never get 2 wires like that inside your plug. One of the other things that I had to do, I had to remove the center pin. It just wasn't going to be enough room in there after I did some cutting. So like inside this plug, I had to chisel away some of the plastic on the inside. And I went about halfway. So when you open your plug up, there's some grooves in there. You kind of have to cut some of that. Basically, you're going to solder your metal leads onto your wire. And then you're going to keep, installing and uninstalling these leads until you can get the whole thing to fit. Without chiseling out the inside, you'll never be able to get this to close down. One of the other things that I did do is I do run super glue on both sides. I don't just rely on the screws. The other one you can't see, the other screw that's in here is underneath the heat shrink wrap. You can't see that, but it's there. But it's a little trick to making this work, and I'll tell you what you got to do. So the positive, when you solder that internal pin to the wire, you're going to want to get the red wire as far up inside of the plastic housing as far as you can get it in there. On the ground side, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to cut back the rubber, because you'll never get both of these thick pieces of rubber inside. And even after you cut the back half of this plug to open it up, you're going to have to cut away some of that rubber covering on the negative to the point where you can basically see it on the outside of the plug. And then what I did was I put a few layers of heat shrink up inside there, and then I took a very heavy duty, like I don't even want to call it like a military grade heat shrink, and I put that on the outside for stability. And I intentionally have a curved, I heated it up and I curved it on purpose. That way when you plug it in the back of your radio, it drops down nicely. If you don't do that, you're gonna be like into the wall. So I don't know if that makes sense to some of you, but I've seen some people have 10 gauge. This is actually the second time that I've done an 8 gauge wire upgrade. And it does work. It is tricky, but I've made it happen. A couple other things I did. I put a ferrite bead right there on the hot side, and on the negative, because I don't have a fuse to hold it in place on this side, it won't really go anywhere. On this side, I just heat shrunk around the ferrite. And I don't know if it's even necessary, but figured what the heck. I was going this far with the wire upgrade, I might as well do the ferrites. But yeah, I don't know if this may help some people out. Maybe not, but it is tricky. And the downside is it's like $10, I think, on eBay now to get one of these like plugs. Probably just better to take an old one if you have one sitting around and using it versus buying one, because you're basically going to end up cutting and ripping apart the plug anyways. But it is possible, and this is the proof. So like I said, you know, if you trying to get an extra 5 or 10 more watts out of your radio, you know, give it a shot. Probably get the same amount out of a 10 gauge, but what the heck, I don't think I've seen anybody do 8 gauge. So it's kind of why I did it. And one of the reasons why this is my second time doing this is I wanted a better Superflex 8 gauge. What I currently, what I have now, if I can get it out of there, it's 8 gauge, but it's kind of stiff. And I like this stuff better. It's just easier to work with. So anyways, thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, you always can message me. Thanks.